just after selling AMD for a profit in our morning live session. And by the way, if you guys ever want to watch us trade live, it's a second link in the description. We took a shot on Rigetti, but instead of going with the stock that everyone's watching, we opted for the 2x alternative that doubles Rigetti's moves. Now, it's a little known play called RGTX, and today it's already showing some promise for us. And if you're curious about how quantum stocks are becoming a part of this AI boom that we are in right now, stick around for the breakdown. So when it comes to Rigetti stock, we bought in here at about $30.88. And now we're actually in this position here that you can see this trend starting to develop. And when we entered this morning, it was kind of just after. You could actually see this trend even potentially breaking right here. So we might have to manage some risk here. I'm going to go ahead and set a stop at this previous resistance here. Right here, we got this resistance level pretty strong there. So we'll go ahead and set a sell stop there for the 184 shares that we got there. Okay, it says it was rejected. I don't know if it has to be whole shares or what's going on there. Maybe it's got to be exactly 184. Huh, it says it was rejected. All right, we'll work on that later. Not really sure what's going on there with RGTX. Because now it's down to that support. So what's going on? All right. Now it's down to my support. See, it's selling down to my support. Trying to lock in the profits. What if I try and sell right now? It sold. All right, that's fine. So $60 profit for Rigetti. Not as much as we would have liked. It did just break pattern, so that was kind of why we just sold. It's possible that it bounces on that moving average as it started to push bullish. And we should have just locked in $150 profit. But literally right when I was going to set our stop, the order wasn't working. That was so weird. Anyway, now we locked in $60 profit. Our portfolio's up about 4.2% today. And we're trading quantum after the market. It's a little bit of a shame because this morning when we were starting the day, we were trading Black Sky. We ended up managing risk at 1%. And then after that, I traded Rigetti, and it was after selling AMD for a profit. We had a nice profit there this morning. But what's going on with Rigetti? Rigetti stock is starting to have this trend recently, and it pushed up to this resistance, and that's kind of why we sold it. Just kind of broke pattern. There's this resistance here that it established back on Friday. That's right here at $32 on RGTX, which let me just go ahead and do the main one. So you see this trend start to develop. We start to see their company have this potential recovery. What we were looking for a move for Rigetti was this swing potentially up into this $15 range. But we did just see it kind of break pattern a little bit, start to sell off to the right there. And now it's got some resistance at that $12 price point. And it did just sell down to that support this morning and started to recover. There's three things we look at with the stock. The first thing is the market. So the quantum computing market is up today. You can see with the exception of QBTS, you got IonQ is up 2%, Rigetti's up 2%. You have LAES is up, IBM's doing well, NVIDIA's doing well. So when the market's moving in a positive direction and also quantum is doing well, you have to ask yourself, why is quantum doing so well? Well, with AI, there's this thought that right now it says potentially 53 billion, but the industry is estimated to be worth about 120 billion right now. So we know that is the case right now. And it says that this could be potentially a $1 trillion industry by 2035, which is 5 or 10 years away, right? When we went to CES, they were saying the market potentially could grow to that $1 trillion mark in the next 3 to 5 years, which is a huge feat. That would basically say that every company that is a quantum computing company in the long term of 3, 5, 10 years could grow by essentially about 5 to 10x from current prices. So, if not more. And so, what we look at with Rigetti, though, is that their financials, we don't have a lot of faith in the short term. We just play some of the swings like we did today that turned into what should have been a couple $100, a $60 profit. But that's okay. We locked it in. And then you have the market growing. So then Rigetti stock, the conversation then is, what do things look like from the financial perspective? Because the financials is kind of getting into the second piece, which is our analysis, which is the financials, the news, and the chart. The financials are showing signs of having more cash in their balance sheets, but still struggling to turn a profit. So their revenue has been down, and that's something you got to watch. If you look at their price right now, their market cap, the stock's been in a little bit of a slump because of financial woes. Quarterly, if you look at their income and revenue, it really hasn't surpassed about $2 million a quarter, but they had a positive net income on some cash influx from some of the deals that they signed in January. So financials look okay. They're buying what could be these big investors. When you look at the holders of Rigetti, you got BlackRock here, you got Vanguard, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan Chase, you got Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, we said that, and Vanguard and State Street. I think we said that. So those are some of the biggest institutions, and they're buying it. They have a pretty large increase of shares that they continue to buy. And there's more increased positions, significantly more increased positions than that of their decreased positions, which indicates the institutions are finding a lot of value in Rigetti. Now, when it comes to Rigetti, we talked a little bit about their QPU the other day and how they have these different levels of their quantum computer and how they're being used through the cloud, and they have the partnerships with, you got Microsoft, you have NASA contracts, you got AWS. But one of the questions was, what catalyst do they potentially have in place that could put them into that level of which they'll see explosive growth? And so far, they haven't had any news releases for almost a month. So ideally, what we could account for potentially would be like more investments there from Quanta Computer. They've been getting more cash. They also got that $5.48 million contract with Air Force. So it's possible, right, that if that's a 5 million, 5.4, that's probably 500K to their bottom line or their revenue. And then they're going to see maybe some Quanta Computer investments there. And, in the financial side of things, that might push them above that $2 to $3 million that they've been struggling, that ceiling that they've been struggling to reach above. So that $2 to $3 million ceiling, if we start to see them break out above that, we're looking very good for Rigetti. But overall, what does it look like for the near term? Well, right now it's holding at this support level right here at about $11. Here, there's $11 price point at which it's got this previous support and consolidation zone. And so if it's really going to stay bullish, we're going to see it hold there above that level. So you got that $11 price point there that they are holding above. And if they hold above it, then things continue to look very good. If they break below, it looks like there would be pretty strong indication that they could dip some more. And if that dip happens down to that $8 price point, something like that, long-term investors, they're prepared for that. So they expect that as volatility, and I do too. I got some long-term investments with Rigetti, and I like that. The short-term plays expect volatility. It just kind of broke pattern right when we were trading it, and it's possible it could still make this move. If we do have a little more tolerance, today was just a 2x quick trade that I entered. But if we're looking for not so much, the quick cash, but something that's a couple weeks, something like that, then potentially we trade this week or 2 week long potential of swinging up into that $14 or $15 range, but you got to still manage risk tight. Like if we're going for that 25% margin, according to our calculator here, which by the way, super excited for this calculator to be put on some mugs that we're going to be giving away for the next 20 StockMate investors that join our daily live trading. If you want to watch me trade live, see my entries and my exits, you get this stock profit calculator's ratio put on a cup, a mug that you can enjoy your coffee and see a plan there each morning, along with some good rules of thumb for entering and exiting trades. That's going to be our 20,000 subscriber special for YouTube. So that cup, it's going to be free for the next 20 StockMate members. So also, we'll be giving it out to the top 3 most active members inside of StockMate. So that's exciting as well. So again, this calculator, if we're going to use it, which it is a free calculator we offer, if we're going for this margin of about 26%, let's say up into that 1450 range, let's kind of map it out. So it would be an entry here about 1155. So purchase price 1155. Let's say the current price is, I don't know, yeah, 1175, something like that. And let's just say we get, 1,000 shares. What does that look like? Well, we're looking for this margin here. What was it? A 25% swing. And so how the calculator works, for the first 10%, it's very slow increment and you can really see the returns. But as you get near the top, then the percentage starts to exponentially go up so that you can really fine tune for the bigger gains. And you got a 25% potential. Is that what we were looking for? Yeah, about a 25, 26%. We could call it that, 27. And that would mean managing risk. That's a pretty hefty trade, a hefty swing trade. And that would be managing risk around 1093, which would put you just below that $11 price point, right? So kind of managing risk below that support, which is actually not a bad plan. And so those are the types of trades that make a difference, the types of swing trades that potentially we enter and that can really yield the results that we're looking for. We're looking for those 10 to 20% swings, those types of trades that you can risk losing or managing risk at 1 to 3, or in this case it would be 4 or 5%, because we're going for such a large margin of profit. So that would potentially be a trade, but again, we want to see those financials cook up a little bit. We also want to see it really strongly validate that support, as it recently broke it back there a little bit about 2 weeks or about 3 days ago there on Friday. It kind of broke that support. I guess it's a little bit down, but we'll see if it starts to swing and if it can make that move, because if we're looking on the RSI and the MACD, it's still kind of in a mid territory. Not really bearish, not really bullish. RSI is holding at 14, and MACD down here is right at the kind of oscillator that crossing over. So nothing that's really indicating a big buy or sell so much on the near term. It's just a hold and kind of seeing how it reacts, which is fine. We're able to lock in a small profit. Better to lock it in than lose money. So portfolio's up about 4%. We'll be watching some of these plays throughout the week. And to start the week, we started with one profitable trade with AMD. At the beginning of the day, we got to lock in some profits on AMDL. It was up about 8% at one point this morning. And then we got into Black Sky. We were trading Black Sky. And Black Sky, it did continue to recover after a few minutes of buying it, but then it decided to continue down a little bit after that. So we ended up managing risk there on Black Sky. So this morning when we got in, when we entered here, we saw it swing down and started and then it we bought right here. We were looking for a take profit up around 1330, and we bought it about here, and we were looking for that swing. And it almost got to take profit. It started to build some momentum, about 2%, but didn't really give us that 4 or 5% margins we were looking for. So we ended up, we held it out, and then we ended up having to manage risk. We sold right there after market open, which we gave all of the stops right at market open and all of the targets as well. So if you guys ever want to watch me trade live, see our entries, see our exits, surround yourself with other investors, second link in the description. Thanks so much for watching. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing. I appreciate you all, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.